Today I'm going to show you how to build AI agents inside N8N as a complete beginner without having done it before and without needing to write a single line of code. I've been using N8N for almost a year now. I've made well over $100,000 in profit selling AI agents to businesses. And the reason I'm making this guide is because I know how intimidating it can be for a complete beginner who's new to the AI space when you get on YouTube and you see all these complex AI agent systems that other people build and you don't really understand how they work or how they actually build them. So in this video, I'm going to be helping you overcome that intimidation factor and that subconscious fear almost that I know so many people have when it comes to these tools, and hopefully teach you everything that you need to know to start building AI agents inside N8N. And N8N, guys, it's really a platform that allows you to drag and drop different squares or different nodes, as they're called inside N8N, pretty much glue different softwares together so one software can communicate with another software. And if you don't know what AI agents are, the simplest explanation I can give you is that they really are large language models that are able to take actions through third-party API integrations. As you can see, I created a new workflow. Here is the overview section. Out of all these sections right here, you never really need to use any of them aside from the overview, so don't really worry about that. Whenever you create a new workflow, the first thing you want to be doing is you want to give your workflow a name. So in this case, I'm going to be building an email agent and I'm going to be doing it live with you so you can see me making mistakes and see or observe how I'm fixing them or how I'm thinking about the entire process. Now, the reason you always want to name your workflows is because once you start having 5-10 workflows, it can get very confusing and it's going to look very messy. I also recommend you giving them some tags. So let me just give mine a new tag. I'm just going to create a new one and I'm going to say email agent. And this way I'm going to be able to filter inside my workflows based on the specific tag that I want to use. So email agent, perfect. The canvas is broken down into two sections. We have the editor section, which is what you see right now. And the editor section is pretty much where you go to build stuff, right? So you can see we have this plus sign right here and we can start building. And then the execution section is where you go to see or check on the actual runs of your system. So if I build a system and I initiate it or I trigger it and it actually starts working, I'm going to be able to figure out exactly what's going on node by node inside the executions tab. Right here, we have this inactive button. If you are finished with your workflow, you want to make it active for real world use, you can just click on it. It's going to turn green and then it's going to pretty much be live. And then on the top right, we have these 3 dots, and let me quickly walk you through them. So first option you get is to duplicate a workflow. Maybe you have a client or maybe you want to do some testing to your system or add an additional part to it, but you don't really want to mess around with an end product. So you can just duplicate it and start editing the duplicate of your workflow. Here you can download your workflow and it's going to download it in a JSON format. Here you can import a new workflow from a URL, and here you can import a workflow from a JSON file. So for example, if I go here inside my school community, I go to the classroom and I click here where it says automation templates. I can just find an automation template that I want to plug into my own account, download it, and then I'm going to add the file from this section right here. Now, with that being said, guys, let's get more specific here. So every single workflow inside N8N, it always starts with a trigger. So this plus sign, when you click it, is going to ask you to connect a trigger to this workflow. And a trigger is pretty much what initiates the entire AI system. So you can either trigger it manually, and you can see there is a short description here, runs the flow on clicking a button in N8N. You can trigger it every time an event happens on an app. You can trigger it on a schedule. Maybe you want your agent to run every 2 days or something. You can trigger it on a webhook call. And this is a very good way to have, for example, GHL communicate with N8N. Every time a new lead is created in GHL, it can trigger a workflow inside N8N. You can have the workflow or the agent trigger on a form submission. You can also call a workflow inside N8N from another workflow. So this is how you build multi-agent systems, by using this trigger right here. And you can also trigger it on a chat message internally inside N8N. There are also some other ways. And then we also have some app trigger. So if I search for Telegram, for example, let's say I want to connect a Telegram chat with my agent, and every time I message that chat is going to trigger my agent. You can see it right here. So it's on message. It gives me other options as well. So it has 9 Telegram triggers, and you can tell that a node is a trigger because it has this little bolt or thunder icon next to it, which I can't really hover over it right now, but you can see it. In this case, I don't want to use a Telegram trigger. And by the way, this square thing right here is called a node. Inside make.com, if you're familiar with it, it's the equivalent of a module, but essentially it's like these squares that you can connect together. So I'm just going to delete this. And for this example, I'm going to use an on-chat message. So this is going to be our trigger. Every time I open this chat and I send a message to the system, it's going to trigger the entire workflow. So in this case, because I'm going to build an email agent, what I recommend you do is, if it's a simple build, I mean, you can skip this step, but especially for more complicated builds, you want to first, before you even start building, you want to create a Miro board or something, or Canva, or even take a piece of paper and conceptually map out the entire logic of the system on how you think the system is supposed to work. In my case, because this is going to be something, not too complex, I don't necessarily need to do that. You should also go ahead and think of different examples of inputs that your system is supposed to receive when it's finally finished. And because those are the inputs that you're going to build the entire agent based on. So in my case, I want to build an email agent. An example of an input would be email my friend Yanis and invite him for dinner tonight. That's an example of a message or a function that I want this agent to be able to take. So I'm just going to send this message to my agent, and as you can see, this node turned green, which means it was executed successfully. I'm going to double click on this node, and you see there is this pin icon on the top right. I'm going to click on it. So what I did right now is I pretty much stored this data inside my trigger. And this is especially helpful when you're building something from scratch, because it allows you to not have to constantly type or initiate the trigger. This stores the input data for the system. And now every time the system runs, this is the input that is going to be going through it. So email my friend Yanis and invite him for dinner tonight. So the second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to add an AI agent. And we have a few different types of AI agents. So as you can see, we have a tools agent, and here is a description. We have a conversational agent, an OpenAI function agent, a plan and execute agent, a React agent, and an SQL agent. Now guys, out of the perhaps almost hundreds of AI agents I've built, in 95% of the cases, it's always going to be a tools agent. Okay, so you don't even need to worry about all this stuff. In fact, a lot of the nodes and different options inside N8N, you don't need to worry about because you'll never use. But just so you know, in most cases, most AI agents that you're going to be building are going to be tools agents. Here we can define what the input of this agent is going to be. N8N is smart enough to populate the input for us, which is pretty much what the message that we send to the trigger. But if we want to define the message ourselves, then we can just change it to define below and drag this and drop it right here. And it's the same variable, as you can see, json.chat input. And then if I change it, it's the same thing. So this is pretty much our AI agent. Before we give our AI agent a prompt, I'm going to go ahead and quickly connect a brain to my agent. So we have different LLM options right here. Personally, in most cases, I'm just using OpenAI GPT-4o mini or GPT-4o. So I have connected it, and now our agent can reason, it can think, it can make decisions. So this is a beauty of AI agents, and this is the brain of the agent. So now I'm going to click on the agent again, and then I'm going to click on add options. And now I'm going to write a system message. So this is pretty much the prompt of the agent. Now, writing prompts for agents, guys, is a whole different skill set, but you'll see how I'm crafting it right here. So I'm going to say, you are my email agent. Your job is to always... Now, of course, I haven't connected this tool to the agent yet, But in my mind, the way I'm thinking about it is I want this agent to be able to find the email of the person by the name of the person. So in a real world scenario, I don't want to be sending the email of that person to the agent. I want the agent to be smart enough and have access to different tools that allow it to get at the name of the person, in this case Yanis, and then find the email of Yanis inside a database and then return that back to the agent. I'm going to show you how that is done. So this is the first step. Identify the email of the person named in the query using the get contacts tool. The second step is going to be write the subject line. And then step number 4 is going to be send the email to that person by calling the send email tool. So this is the prompt of our agent. And one of the things you should know, guys, is that you never come up with a final prompt the first try, because it's gonna need to go through different iterations until we can get it to work. But this should work fine for now. So we have our agent, we have our brain, we have our trigger. I'm also going to go ahead and add Windows buffer memory to our agent for this case. And what this allows our agent to do is retain some of the context from the trigger. So it will know up to 5 messages from past interactions. So it's kind of a little smarter this way. You can also change this number to like 20 or whatever. In this case, I'm just going to keep it at 5. And now we pretty much have prompted this agent to receive an initial query from us. So send an email to Yanis and ask him to do this thing. And now we want to equip our agent with different tools so it becomes capable of executing our command. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click here on Add Tool, and then we're going to, the first thing we're going to do is we want our agent to be able to have access to our database of contacts. So I'm going to use Google Sheets for this. So Google Sheets, let's just find it. Boom. So I already have connected all my credentials, by the way, guys, both for Google, for OpenAI and all that. If you haven't done that, make sure you go ahead and do it. For OpenAI, you're going to need an OpenAI API account and put some money in credits in there. That's different from your normal ChatGPT account, but it's very easy to set up, same as for Google Sheets. So I have connected my credentials, and then tool description, I'm going to set it manually because automatic, sometimes it makes mistakes. And I'm going to say, call this tool to read the database of contacts. So now the agent is gonna know that, okay, if I wanna get contacts or I wanna get somebody's email, this is a tool I'm supposed to use. Now resource, sheet within the document, operation is get rows. We have other operations as well. For example, if we wanted the agent to be able to update a Google Sheet, we would select this operation. But in our case, we want the agent to be able to read the rows inside a Google Sheet. So I'm going to keep the get rows. And now we have to go to my Google Drive account, and now we have to create a Google Sheet. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to name this N8N contacts for email agent. And now I'm going to type here name. Here I'm going to say email, and then below I'm going to put my name. I'm also going to put a mock name, so Chris, and then here I'm going to give it my email, so johnnypink123@gmail.com. and here I'm also going to give like a random example of an email just so I can test that it actually works. So I'm going to say example.com. Perfect. I'm also going to make this bold just so it doesn't bother my OCD. And that's pretty much going to be our database. So I'm going to refresh this, and then I'm going to go back to our agent. And you see here where it says document from list. I'm going to click that, and you see N8N contacts for email agent. I'm going to click on it, and then it's going to be sheet 1 because, well, that's the only sheet we have. We only have one sheet here. Now, regarding the filters and all that, we don't need to change anything really here. So let's go back and let's test this workflow right here. Actually, let me change the command that I give to my agent. And I'm going to ask my agent, what is Yanis' email? And I'm going to save this. So this is the new pin data. And I'm going to test this workflow. And as you can see, it's calling the Google Sheets tool. And if I double click on the agent again, you can see the output of the agent. Yannis' email is johnnypink@gmail.com. So now the agent is able to get my email address, or pretty much anybody's email address that exists in here. So if I go back and I double click on the on the trigger again, I'm going to change the name to Chris. What is Chris email? I'm going to save this and I'm going to test it again. So now it's supposed to output Chris's email. So here it is, chrisexample.com, and you can also see it here. So perfect. Now our agent is able to use this tool. And as you can see, guys, this is really all AI agents are. It's pretty much an LLM, a large language model, that has access to different API integrations. And it also has an underlying infrastructure for data management that really helps support the function of the LLM as well as the function of the API. So it's nothing really that complicated, but let's make our agent even more capable. So now we can get the email. Let's see if we can make our agent able to send emails. So if I want to add a new tool, I'm going to click here. And then you see where it says search notes. I'm going to type Gmail tool. So I'm going to click on it. And again, for this one, you also need to connect your own credentials. And I'm not going to show you how to do it in this video. And then you can see tool description. I'm going to set it manually again. So call this tool to send emails. Perfect. The resource is going to be message because that's what we want this tool to be able to do. And the operation is going to be send. So send a message. It also has other operations as you can see here, add label, delete, get many, but we don't really care about that for now. Now, here's where it gets a little more interesting. So obviously, if we want our agent to be able to send an email to anybody, it requires three things from us. It requires the recipient's email address. So to whom are we going to send this email to? The subject line, and it also requires the body of the message. So in some way, we have to figure out a prompt for our agent so it outputs these three variables so we can populate them inside these three boxes right here by dragging and dropping them, or by using the the new feature that N8N has created that pretty much populates a variable for you. So let's go back to our trigger for a second, and I want to change the request again. So I'm going to send, let's see, send an email to my friend Yannis and invite him to go to the club tonight. I'm going to save this. And now this is an example of an input that the agent is going to receive. So now let's go ahead and test our workflow. So as you can see, the agent received our request. Now the agent is reasoning to understand what the request is about. It then calls the Google Sheet tool to get access to Yannis' email. And then as you can see, agent stopped due to max iterations. Now we don't really care about that because it stopped because it doesn't really have access to the Gmail tool. But we want the agent to always output a specific answer, right? So this is the output of the agent right now. So I'm going to go back to the prompt and I'm going to add an additional line right here. And I'm going to say, always output only the following information. And then I'm going to say, we obviously want the recipient's email. We also want the subject line for the email. And then we also want the body. So this is the three variables that we want our agent to be able to output. So if I go ahead and test this step again, you can see that the model is trying to generate the output. So let's see if it's going to follow our instructions. So recipient's email is Johnny Pink. Subject line is invitation to the club tonight. And then this is the email right here. The problem though is that we're still getting everything in one variable, and it's going to be hard for our model to understand where it should populate each variable inside the send email tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the agent again, and I'm going to enable this feature where it says require specific output format. So I'm going to enable this. And what this allows us to do is pretty much force our agent to always output its response in a very specific way. So I'm going to click here where it says output parser, and then I'm going to click on the structured output parser, and I'm going to define a JSON for the agent that I want him to output its answers in. Now, don't be intimidated by the JSON, guys. I don't really understand it myself. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but I can copy this now, and I can go to ChatGPT, and as you can see, I'm using O3 Mini. I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to eliminate the state and the cities, and I'm going to replace them with the recipient's email, the subject line, and the body. So eliminate. ChatGPT is going to do all the heavy lifting for us, and it's going, as you can see, it created a new JSON for us right here. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it in here. And now I'm also going to remove the details here because obviously I want my agent to be able to populate them for me. So I'm going to change it like this. Perfect. And now it should be fine. So I'm going to save this workflow. Always save your workflows, guys. You don't want to, lose any hard work. And now I'm going to test my workflow again with the message that we have pinned inside the trigger. And let's see how it outputted everything for us. So as you can see, recipient's email, email subject line, and then email body right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the send email node, and then I'm going to click here where it says let the model define this parameter for you. You can also, if you know JavaScript, you can also like populate the expression yourself, but that's not really necessary because the model or N8N is smart enough to do this for us. So I'm just going to click here. I'm going to do the same for the subject line and the same for the message. And now we should be good to go. So let's test the workflow again, and let's see if now the agent is able to get our email and then send us an email through the send email tool. Okay, so it seems like everything worked fine, as you can see. Let's click on the agent again. So this is the output, and now let's go to my email account and let's see if it was actually if it was sent successfully. So let's go to send. Hi Yanis, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to see if you would like to join me and some friends to the club tonight. It should be a fun time. Let me know if you're in. Okay, so perfect. It sent the email to the right person, as you can see. Now I don't like this line right here, so I want to remove it. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go back to the agent. I'm going to click on add I'm going to go back to this tool right here. Sorry. I'm going to click on add options. And then you see where it says append N8N attribution. I'm going to turn this off. And now I'm going to save this. And I'm going to test the workflow again. And now it's supposed to not include this bottom line inside the email. So let's see. Let's see if it actually works this time. Okay, so it seems like it did work. Let me just refresh it. And as you can see, this is the latest message it sent without the actual line that attributes this message or this email to the AI. We have built a relatively simple AI agent inside N8N without really needing to code anything ourselves, just by dragging and dropping different nodes. So now let's say I wanted my agent to be able to call another workflow. I could use, call N8N workflow tool. So if you want to, let's say, build a multi-agent system, then this is how it would look like. So it would call this N8N workflow, and then the other agent is going to be hosted on a whole new canvas. So I go back to overview, I create a new workflow, and then I'm going to click on this, execute sub workflow. And then this is going to be the trigger for the main agent. So let's name this sub agent, for example. And then let's go back to our email agent. And let's say this sub agent can do whatever, it can do research. I'm just going to click on this. And then you see where I get to select an agent. I'm going to search for sub agent. Boom. And now, of course, I need to name it and all that. But now this agent is able to call another agent inside N8N, and you can have multiple agents here. You can have multiple agents in the sub workflow. But this is the entire logic of N8N. This is how it works. A few things I want to say is people underestimate how much help using ChatGPT to help them troubleshoot can bring on the table. And also, a lot of the problems you're facing with N8N can be fixed very quickly by just refreshing the page, guys. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. With that being said, I also have a school community that you can join if you're interested in learning how to build or sell AI agents. We have almost 70 members. You can see Dennis just signed a $30,000 deal for his agency. And then you can join this community. You get access to different courses. You get access to different live calls. Every single week we're doing live calls with me, my head developer for my agency. You can message us anytime to help you solve your technical problems. And you also get access to me through the DM. So you can reach out and get answers to your questions. And the best part is that I'm currently building an AI agent course as well, hand in hand with my head developer for my agency. So that's going to be coming out very soon. You also get access to all my automation templates that I share on YouTube. So you get access to that 17 AI agent army, team of 9 AI agents that films your YouTube videos, as well as a sales agent that we're currently working on and we're going to be sharing very soon. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, share it. That really helps the algorithm. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.